Hey, what's up guys? It's Ethan Gunter with the Gap Year Project, and today I'm just bringing you a video to help explain the very minimal basics of Blender to hopefully get you started and help you jump over some of the hurdles that many people run into when they're using the program for the first time. So without further ado, let's get started. First off, we can't work on a program that doesn't exist on our system yet, so we need to install it. Go ahead and go to your browser of choice. I'm using Chrome because it's clearly the superior choice. Go ahead and type in blender.org right there into the URL bar. And on the opening page, on the front page, you'll have a conveniently placed download button. You can go ahead and click that. Then you have a couple of options here. You can either download the version that has been 100% confirmed stable, or you can download the release candidate. I would advise staying away from this unless you know what you're doing. This just allows users to test any new features that have been implemented. But we're going to be focusing on this, so you can either go ahead and click on this to download the Windows installer, or select this link if you have a different operating system or if you want a portable version, which I do. That just downloads it into a folder, so you can run it out of the folder instead of having it embedded into your system. So I'm going to go ahead and download this. That'll probably take about a minute to download. Looked like it went super fast on my computer because through the power of editing, I get to time travel. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and open this up in the folder. And I've downloaded it a few times just trying to test this out. But you're going to want to go ahead and use WinRAR or 7-zip to extract the files. You can go ahead and extract it here. And it's already in a folder, so you don't have to worry about files going everywhere. And once that's unzipped, we can go ahead and move that to a preferred location. Or if you use the installer, just go into your start menu and type in the name of the program and it'll open up. You can click on that. But I'm going to put this on my desktop, and we can open up that folder and just run the executable. So when Blender opens up, you'll go ahead and be greeted with this screen. To go ahead and get started, we can just click off of this screen. And the first thing that you'll probably end up trying to do is grabbing some objects and moving them around. And you'll be screaming because why in the world is Blender not letting me grab these objects and move them? And what is this little life preserver thing that's going wherever I click? Well, Blender has a default control scheme where you select with the right mouse button and manipulate with the left mouse button. This seems a little counterintuitive at first, but the reason they do it is because if I have two objects that are overlapping each other similarly, and I have the left mouse button set to select, and I want to grab this cube here, I might end up clicking and grabbing this little movement handle instead. But if I right click to select, then I don't have that issue. If you are a stubborn old man and stuck in your old ways, then you can just go up here to File, User Preferences, or press Ctrl-Alt-U. Go to Input and select with left, and then Save User Settings. I'm going to stick with the right mouse select because it is definitely more intuitive once you get used to it. So basic navigation in the 3D viewport. This is super important to grasp and get comfortable with very quickly. But after you pick it up, you won't even think about it as you're moving around the program. So the most important button that you're going to be using is the middle mouse button. If you don't have a middle mouse button, again, you can go to the user preferences and emulate a three button mouse, That'll allow you to alt left mouse, and that'll replace the middle mouse button. But since I have a middle mouse button, I'm just going to use that. So when you hold the middle mouse and move the mouse around, it allows you to pan around wherever the center of the pivot point is. You can modify the movement by pressing and holding either Shift or Control while holding the middle mouse button and moving it. So if I just use the middle mouse button to move, it'll pivot. If I hold shift, and middle mouse button, it'll pan. And if I hold Control and middle mouse button, it'll allow me to zoom in and out. You can also zoom in and out by scrolling up and down, which is my preferred method, but to each their own. Another very useful thing is using views. If you have a keyboard with a numpad, you can just press the different numbers to reach different views. So if I press 1, it'll go to front view. If I press 3, it'll go to side view. 7 is top view. Apparently 9 inverts whatever you're looking at. So if I go to the front view and press 9, it'll go to the back view, vice versa. This can also be emulated on a laptop. Again, in the user preferences, I'm just going to press Ctrl-Alt-U this time and emulate numpad. Basically all this is going to do is switch the numpad to the number bar across the top of your keyboard. So 1 and 3 and 7 and 9 will do the same thing. One thing that I do like though about having a numpad is if you select an object and then press the period button on your numpad, it'll center the view on that object and set the pivot to its origin, which is extremely useful when working with objects instead of trying to readjust the pivot by panning and rotating. Just in case you end up getting lost by doing this and you can't find your way back, or it seems like the pivot is hopelessly off track, you can press Shift C and it'll take you right back to the center of, or the average of the objects in your scene. So if I put this way over here and then press Shift C, it'll show everything in the scene. One thing that you can do in order to make manipulating objects a little bit easier is coming down here at the bottom of the 3D view panel and clicking on these different widgets. You'll notice that as I click through them, the manipulator widget will change around the object, and these are for transform, rotation, and scaling respectively. You can shift select them if you're feeling ambitious to have all of them up at once, or just certain ones that you tend to use frequently. Another thing that's super useful is you'll notice even though I've rotated it, the top of the cube here is facing this way, but it's only allowing me to move in the global position. So if I go down here, I can change this to either normal or local, and it'll allow me to move along the cube's local axis. You can shortcut that by pressing Alt Space. Being able to manipulate the object through the widgets like this is all good and well, but after a while it becomes limiting and it'll slow down your workflow. So some important shortcuts to learn are G, which stands for grab. It'll allow you to grab it and it'll move along the view axis. So if I want to move it along the x-axis, I should align it so that my view plane is in line with it, and then I can move it back and forth. If I decide to move it and I want it to stay specifically on the x-axis, once I've grabbed it, I can press the middle mouse button and it'll lock it to whatever the closest one is. I can unlock it by pressing the middle mouse button again and moving it. Just with a little bit of fiddling, you'll get the hang of this. The next one is rotate by pressing R in much a similar way. Middle mouse locks it to different axes, and S to scale. Once again, the middle mouse can lock. And if you're not happy with what you've done, you can either left click to confirm and then Control Z, or right click it before you've confirmed it and it'll cancel and move it back to its original position. But now we can move on to the next thing that people find difficult in Blender, which is the panel layout system. So panels are fairly common in programs. It allows you to customize the layout of your scene, but in Blender it functions a little bit differently, and in my opinion, much more effectively. So I'm going to go ahead and reset my scene to only have one panel, and now we only have the 3D view open. Now this will give me the opportunity, if you see these little plus signs, you can see the window sensitive options, and you can either grab these and just shrink them off to the side, or press T to open up the tool shelf and N to open up the properties shelf. I don't know what it's called. Press N and it opens up this right side. Now if you'll look in the top and bottom corners opposite each other, you'll see these three little lines. These are the things that you're going to grab to create and to hide different panels. If I want to open this panel up and get the hierarchy of our scene, I'm going to go to the outliner, which is the hierarchy, and then I can find all of the different objects. This is useful because you can create layouts very quickly and switch between different views, and it allows you to improve your workflow. So now you know what I would consider to be the minimum basics to beginning in Blender. You can navigate and at least follow along with some other tutorials. If you liked this video and it helped you out, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, like and subscribe, but let me know why you didn't like it. You know, I'm always looking for an opportunity to improve. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.